Disrespected Black CEO exposes billionaire's daughter, 2.7B decision that changed everything for his community. Jordan Scott stood in front of his tech startup, the city of Chicago looming behind him, a concrete jungle filled not just with skyscrapers, but with dreams and struggles. As a proud African-American CEO in his mid-30s, he had carved out a space in an industry dominated by the elite, but that success came with a price. The disdain from people like Jennifer Adams, daughter of a billionaire, stung deeper than any words. To her, he was just another black man in a suit, an anomaly in her wealthy world. But it was more than that, it was the way her blue-eyed gaze pierced through him, loaded with contempt. Growing up in a working-class neighborhood, Jordan's parents poured their soul into raising him. Their sacrifices became the fuel that ignited his ambition. As he immersed himself in technology, he envisioned creating a pathway out for his community, the same community that had nurtured his dreams. It was not just about building a business, it was about creating opportunities for young kids who needed role models. Yet, buried in the daily grind of meetings and mentorships, he discovered troubling news. Jennifer was eyeing his groundbreaking technology, planning to exploit it for her own billion-dollar venture. The cold realization crushed him. How could she, with her privileged upbringing, disregard the blood and sweat poured into every line of code? His heart raced, the anger ignited an inferno he could no longer contain. Before he knew it, he found himself on stage, surrounded by a crowd that shared his indignation. Jennifer had insulted him publicly, flaunting her wealth and making thinly veiled threats. This was his moment, his opportunity to challenge the system that belittled him and those he represented. The crowd murmured in anticipation. The air crackling with tension felt charged enough to light a fire. He confronted her head-on, exposing her predatory ways. When the truth spilled from his lips, the crowd erupted. Cheers filled the room, blending with Jordan's heart beating in affirmation. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the applause faded, Jordan faced a haunting decision, a staggering $2.7 billion offer, enough to build his dreams on his terms, or to stay true to his roots and uplift his community, the very place that nourished his spirit. A tide of voices echoed in his mind: children he had mentored, families he had helped. He envisioned investing in local schools, job training programs, and affordable housing. The weight of the moment loomed large. Doubt crept in. What would his community say when faced with this ultimate choice? Would they view him as a sellout or a hero? As he stood at the edge of this life-altering decision, he glanced around at the faces watching, each one filled with hope and expectation. Just as he gathered the courage to speak, a small child in the front row locked eyes with him, tears glistening. Suddenly, it became crystal clear, this was not just his journey, it was theirs too. With a tight chest and a racing heart, Jordan prepared to share his decision with the world, leaving everyone on the precipice of change and collective hope. Are his community? Jordan's breath hitched as he scanned the eager faces in the crowd. Each gaze held a story, a lifetime of dreams wrapped in one moment. The air buzzed with anticipation, and the world seemed to shrink around him. He felt the weight of his ancestors on his shoulders, the sacrifices of his parents echoing in his heart. They had struggled so he could succeed, and here he was, poised to potentially abandon that struggle's essence for a profitable yet hollow path. That he could almost hear his mother's voice faintly urging him to stay grounded, to remember where he came from. It was a struggle to find the right words. What if he wavered? What if, in the rush of this moment, he lost everything that mattered? Ladies and gentlemen, he began, his voice trembling slightly but steadying under the weight of his resolve. I stand before you with an offer that could change my life. No, that could change all our lives. A murmur rippled through the audience like a wave, growing louder with each passing second. "But what you don't see," he continued, glancing at Jennifer who stood rigid at the back, arms crossed and eyes like daggers, "is that this offer comes with a heavy price. It isn't just about money, it's about integrity, and it's about community." Jordan's heart surged with confidence. He could feel the tension transform into something raw and powerful. "I could take this money and run. I could play their game, join the elite, and forget my roots. But that would mean I turned my back on the very people who believed in me." His eyes swept over the crowd, landing once more on the small child in the front row. The child's tears marked a profound recognition of the stakes involved. This was not merely about Jordan Scott, this was about their future. "I've watched kids in my community struggle to get decent tech education. I've seen parents working themselves to the bone for opportunities that should be available to everyone. My choice isn't just for me anymore. It's for all of us." He leaned in, speaking with passion that bridged the gap between his heart and the audience's souls. The crowd erupted in applause, a tidal wave of encouragement fueled by hope. But just as quickly, the applause faded, and hushed whispers replaced the cheers. People began to grapple with what this all meant. What if he fails? Jordan could almost hear the unspoken doubts echoing back to him. What if, in turning away from the offer, he lost his company? What if the dreams of so many now rested on his shoulders in vain? He took a deep breath, searching his heart, as he placed a hand on his chest. "I won't let this chance slip away without first trying to give back," he told them, his voice stronger than ever. "This isn't just a choice about wealth, it's a choice about legacy." Just as he was about to disclose his final decision, the crowd erupted again, but for a different reason this time. A figure stepped forward from the back, a former colleague with a tarnished reputation now turned whistleblower. The buzz shifted, uncertainty creeping back into faces once full of resolve. Just then, Jordan realized this moment wasn't just his, it was turning into something much larger. "What do you want to say?" he called out, heart racing, knowing this might change everything yet again, and as the figure opened their mouth, the room shifted with charged anticipation. Would this revelation help Jordan reclaim his narrative, or would it tear down everything he had built? The stakes had never been higher. The figure inched closer, the tension palpable. The crowd held its collective breath, eyes darting between Jordan and the whistleblower. There was something raw in the air, almost electric. Every heartbeat sounded like a countdown, and Jordan felt his own pulse quicken. "Jordan," the man began, his voice shaky but urgent, "I couldn't stay silent any longer. What I saw wasn't just wrong, it was criminal." The words hung in the air like a dark cloud, threatening to rain down chaos. Jordan's stomach twisted. He didn't know this man well, but he had been part of the team, a part of the very system that now felt like it was crumbling around him. "What are you talking about?" he managed to ask, though he felt the dread pooling within him. "There are illegal dealings happening, shady contracts being signed. We're being pulled into a web of corruption, not to mention how this may affect your community," the former colleague pressed, his hands shaking as he spoke. "You need to know the truth before making your decision." The murmurs in the crowd grew louder, bubbling over with uncertainty. People exchanged glances, weighing the implications. Jordan caught Jennifer's eye, her expression shifted from disbelief to an intensity that took his breath away. She had seen the dark side of the business world and understood all too well the toll it could take. "What does this mean for me?" Jordan asked, his voice steadier than he felt. "What does this mean for all of us?" The whistleblower straightened up, the sudden intensity in his demeanor suggesting a man who had reached his breaking point. "It means that if you take this offer, it could destroy everything good you're trying to build. It means you might find yourself entangled in something far greater than you realize." The weight of those words crushed down on Jordan. He felt the warmth of anger coursing through him. "Is this some kind of revenge? Because you're bitter? If you're trying to ruin my moment, no." The man shouted, desperation breaking through. "I want to save you. I want to save us." If we don't stand together against this, we're all going to be a part of the destruction. Jordan's mind was racing, filled with a whirlwind of thoughts. Could he trust this man? Could he risk everything he had worked for based on a claim that felt like a double-edged sword? Could he walk away from an opportunity that seemed to promise so much, only to expose himself and his community to even greater danger? The crowd shifted, the air thick with uncertainty. The once supportive energy morphed into confusion and fear. Could they face the truth? Did they want to? Jordan, Jennifer said, her voice cutting across the tension. Listen to him. You have to consider the implications. Jordan met her gaze. Her determination fueled a spark of clarity deep within him. This wasn't just about what would happen if he turned down the offer, it was about what could happen if he accepted it. A storm of doubt swirled, but something else became clear too: he was not alone. Listen, he finally addressed the crowd, heart pounding with urgency. I need your voices now. We've been fighting together for too long to let this chance slip away without knowing the truth. The crowd began to murmur, the energy shifting again. Hands gripped one another, sharing strength. But the uncertainty remained. Where would this path lead them? Suddenly, a revelation hit Jordan hard. What if this man's truth is tied to something larger? Slowly, he turned back to the whistleblower. Who is involved? He asked, the intensity rising. What do you know? Who do we need to watch out for? And with that question, the room fell into a breathless silence. All eyes were on the former colleague, waiting for the next revelation that could change everything once more. The whistleblower hesitated, his eyes darting around the room. The tension thickened, and Jordan held his breath, willing him to speak. There are names, big names, he finally said, his voice barely above a whisper. People we trust, people at the top of the food chain. Each word felt like a stone dropped in a quiet pond, rippling outwards. The crowd leaned in, the urgency palpable. Who? Jordan pressed, his heart racing. It starts with the board, the man murmured, swallowing hard. Think about it. The contracts, the partnerships. It's all interlinked. They're playing a game, and we're just pawns. A murmur swept through the crowd, a communal gasp of disbelief. Jordan felt the switch in atmosphere, a collective realization dawning. These were people they had all known, respected, trusted. Are you saying? Jennifer's voice was thick with unease. People like Charlie? Or Erica? Yes. The whistleblower's desperation animated his stature. They're using this project like a front, siphoning off money, cutting corners. If you go in, Jordan, you'll become part of their scheme. They'll drag your name through the mud if you resist. Jordan's stomach churned. A wave of nausea washed over him as he thought about the faces he had trusted, the relationships he had built. Charlie his mentor. Erica his confidant. Could they really be involved? Why should we believe you? Someone shouted from the back, skepticism lacing the words. The crowd's energy threatened to shift again, confusion resurfacing. Because I've seen the emails. The whistleblower exclaimed, waving his phone. I have proof. He paused, breathing heavily, and the weight of his honesty hit Jordan. It was clear this man believed in what he was saying, but was it enough to convince everyone else? Jordan felt the pressure building, the crowd's eyes fixed on him as if he held their future in his hands. The stakes weren't just about him anymore, they were about everyone gathered here, their lives, their hopes. Show us. A voice shouted out. If you have proof, show us. His heart raced as the whistleblower nodded slowly, his dimming face lit up by a flicker of hope. I can't do it here. But if you meet me later, I'll show you everything. You'll see the depths of what they're doing. The murmurs intensified again, but this time it was a mix of excitement and uncertainty. We can't just take his word for it, said one person. What if this is a trick? What if it's not? Jennifer countered, stepping closer to Jordan, her gaze fierce and unwavering. Do we risk it all just to stay silent? Jordan's mind raced. Each breath felt heavier, as if the air pressure was rising around them. If he turned down the opportunity, maybe he'd save himself from the fall, but at what cost? He could feel the weight of his community's eyes, waiting for his decision. Will we be brave enough to do something about this? He thought, inwardly pleading for clarity. Taking a deep breath, he addressed the crowd again, his resolve boiling to the surface. We need to meet him. We need to know the truth. If we turn our backs now, we're betraying everything we've done together. Let us face this head on. The eyes of the crowd flickered with determination. Maybe this was a turning point. Maybe they could change the narrative, but in the whirlwind of emotion, another fear crept in. As they planned to confront this new reality, a voice in Jordan's head whispered a different question: what if stepping forward meant putting everyone at risk? And just like that, the stakes had risen. The clock was ticking, and Jordan felt it in every fiber of his being. What will we discover when we pull back the curtain? He wondered. The room buzzed with an unease that felt both familiar and foreign. Jordan could sense the weight of what lay ahead, but there was no turning back now. They were on the brink of something that felt big, something that could change everything they had fought for. Would they be ready for the truth when it finally came? Jordan stepped out of the dim room, pulse racing. The murmurs followed him like shadows, a mix of excitement and fear entwined in their voices. Jennifer fell into step beside him, her brow furrowed as if trying to decipher the chaos swirling inside her head. It's one thing to know this information, she said, her tone steady yet anxious. But what's the plan? How do we proceed? Jordan swallowed hard, the weight of the decision pressing down on him. We meet him. Tonight. We hear what he has to say. And if it's true? She pressed, her eyes narrowing. What do we do with that information? He had no answers, not yet. All he felt was a whirlwind of emotions, uncertainty filling spaces where familiarity used to reside. Could the people they had known and worked with so closely really be involved in something so sinister? They walked through the empty halls, the quiet felt oppressive, shadows looming larger than life. Jordan thought about the upcoming meeting, anxiety tightening around his chest. The time spent building trust with colleagues, friendships that felt solid, now wobbled on shaky ground. As he emerged into the open air, the anticipation of night crept up. The sunset painted the sky, but it felt ominous. They would meet, unveil secrets that could tear their world apart. His phone buzzed in his pocket, jolting him from his thoughts. It was a message from the whistleblower. Meet at the diner on Elm. 9 p.m. Don't let anyone know. What does it say? Jennifer asked, her curiosity piqued. Just where to meet him. We have to keep this quiet for now. She nodded, though her jaw clenched, clearly not at ease. They both knew the risks involved. What if they put their community in jeopardy by pursuing this lead? But what would it mean to stay silent? As they approached their cars, a familiar figure appeared from the shadows. Charlie. Jordan's heart dropped. The mentor who once guided him now seemed like the very person they were rallying against. Jordan. Charlie called out, a mix of concern and urgency in his voice. Where are you headed? Caught off guard, Jordan and Jennifer exchanged quick glances. Just grabbing a coffee, Jennifer said, her voice deliberately casual. Together? Charlie continued, suspicion lingering in his eyes. Yeah, Jordan replied, forcing a smile that felt alien. Just needed a break. Right. Charlie leaned in, assessing their expressions. You two are acting weird. Is everything all right? Jordan felt caught in a web, each strand thickening. It would be so easy to spill everything, let Charlie know what they were about to uncover, but something whispered that this wasn't the moment. Yeah, just, busy week, he managed, backing away slightly. Fear flickered in Charlie's eyes, but the weight of their conversation was palpable between them. "Okay, just remember, if something's bothering you, I'm here," Charlie said, but the underlying message was clear. He sensed their tension. Jordan forced a nod, stepping back into his car. As he turned the engine over, worry lodged itself in his throat. Could he trust anyone anymore, least of all the man who had once been his rock? Still, as they drove towards the diner, determination bubbled beneath the surface. Minutes later, they pulled into the parking lot. Dim lights flickered overhead, casting long shadows around the deserted place. "Ready?" Jordan asked, gripping the wheel tightly, nerves racing with anticipation. "I guess so," Jennifer replied, her voice barely above a whisper. They stepped into the diner, the familiar scent of coffee mixing with greasy fries. But the comfort was overshadowed by the gravity of their mission. In that moment, Jordan realized he was about to face a truth that could shatter everything. As they took their seats, he looked at Jennifer. "What if we find something we wish we hadn't?" Jennifer met his gaze, an unspoken understanding passing between them. The stakes were climbing higher, and they were standing at the edge of something dangerous. Would they be ready for the truth, no matter how unsettling it might be? Jordan glanced around the diner, his heart pounding. The flicker of neon lights outside cast an eerie glow over the stained linoleum floor. He felt every second stretching, heavy and full of dread. Each sigh from the old man at the counter, each clink of silverware had turned the diner's cozy ambience into a backdrop for their impending doom. "Do you think he'll show?" Jennifer's voice broke through his thoughts as she scanned the small room. She was fidgeting, twisting a napkin between her fingers. "I don't know," he replied, his gaze fixed at the door. "But if he does, we need to be ready for anything." "Right," she muttered, though her eyes betrayed her uncertainty. A moment later, the bell above the door chimed, and they both turned to see a figure stepping inside. It was a tall man with an unkempt beard and a worn-out jacket, his eyes darting around like a wary animal. It was Albert, the whistleblower they'd been waiting for. He looked even more nervous than they were. "Are you Jordan? Jennifer?" he asked, lowering his voice as he approached their table. "Yeah, that's us," Jordan said, trying to keep his expression neutral. "Thanks for coming." Albert sat down, the wood creaking beneath him. "I hope it's not too late. I didn't stick around long after I sent the message." "Too risky," he paused, looking around nervously again. "You have to believe me when I say that what I'm about to tell you is serious. Lives are at stake." Jordan's stomach nodded. "Just tell us what you know." Albert took a deep breath, his hands trembling slightly. "It's about the Project Pillar Corporation. They're planning something big. Something that could ruin communities, especially in low-income areas." The name made Jordan's blood run cold. He had heard whispers about the project, vague notes in meetings. Supposedly a development initiative, but layers of secrecy surrounded it. "What kind of ruin?" Jennifer asked, leaning forward, her voice intense. "They're pushing out families, bulldozing homes for profit. All in the name of urban development. And the bigger players, the ones at the top. They don't care who gets hurt." The weight of Albert's words settled heavily between them. Jordan's mind raced through the consequences. This had the potential to start an uproar. And who's behind this? "Charlie," Albert said, his voice a near whisper. The name hit Jordan like a punch to the gut. "Charlie?" Jennifer echoed, incredulous. "You're Charlie? What do you mean, my Charlie?" Jordan's nerves were frazzled. "He's been like a father to me." "That's exactly it," Albert went on, urgency lacing his speech. "He's been misleading you, using your trust to further his own agenda. If you don't stop him." He shook his head, visibly shaken. "I can't believe this," Jennifer whispered, her eyes wide. The realization washed over them like a cold tide. Every moment spent with Charlie now felt tainted, the bond they had shared poisoned. Jordan struggled to absorb the truth. Would he really have to confront the man who had always guided him? We have to investigate further, he finally said, his voice steadying. Albert nodded, the tension evident in his shoulders. You have to act fast. They're already making moves. I fear this could explode any day now. Jordan felt resolve hardening within him. He couldn't back down, not when so much was at stake. What's our next step? But before Albert could answer, a shadow loomed over their table. Is everything okay here? A familiar voice interrupted. They turned to find Charlie standing there, arms crossed, his brow narrowed in suspicion. Time froze around them. Would they stay silent, or would they expose the truth right then? In that moment, Jordan realized how fragile trust could be, and the weight of their choices crashed down like a tidal wave. He searched Jennifer's face, uncertainty flickering in her eyes. Charlie, Jordan began, but what would the next words bring? Would they change everything? Everything's fine, Jennifer blurted, her voice too bright, too strained. Jordan shot her a warning glance. They both knew that if they were to get through this, honesty was their only ally. But fear tangled with their bravery like vines wrapping tight. Charlie's eyes scanned their faces. You're both looking a little pale. Something on your minds? He leaned closer, the scent of his aftershave sharper than usual. Jordan felt a bead of sweat slide down his back. Just the usual diner talk, Jordan forced out, his heart racing. But each word felt like a stone lodged in his throat. Right, Charlie replied, his voice steady but cautious. He didn't buy it. No parent, mentor, or friend could look at their protégés and not sense the undercurrent of tension ready to break. You know, I always said this place has a way of digging up old ghosts. Want to share with the class? Jennifer took a deep breath, her courage bubbling just enough to push against her uncertainty. Actually, Charlie, we were just talking about community. Community? He arched an eyebrow, curiosity peaking. That's quite the topic for a couple of kids. What about it? Jordan felt sweat pooling at his temples, and silence wrapped around them like a heavy blanket. Reality crashed hard against him. The man he admired was now a face attached to a dark shadow. He couldn't lie to himself anymore, he was standing at a crossroads. Albert mentioned some things, Jordan found his voice, each word feeling like a small rebellion. About Pillar Corp and urban development. He said that it might be hurting families. The words hung in the air like a thundercloud waiting to unleash its storm. Charlie's expression shifted, confusion knitting his brow. What do you mean? Jennifer leaned in, her eyes fierce. We know who's behind it, Charlie. We saw Albert. He warned us that your project is taking homes from people who can't afford to be pushed out. The corner of his mouth twitched. You believe him? He's not the best source. Misguided man, really. But Jordan pressed on, his will igniting. So, you're saying you don't care about the lives affected? That it's all just numbers? For a heartbeat, something flickered in Charlie's eyes. Was it guilt? Anger? He straightened, arms dropping to his side like the deflation of a balloon. Jordan, there are always sacrifices in business. It's how the world works. Sighs circulated from the few patrons who had turned their heads towards the escalating tension. Each diner felt the weight of the conversation, the air thick with tension. What about the families? Jordan continued. What about the people who have lives here? But I'm providing jobs. Opportunities. Charlie's voice rose slightly, voice almost breaking. The frustration was palpable. You don't understand. These changes are necessary for growth. Jennifer shook her head, disbelief knitting her features. You can't justify hurting others for profit. That's not growth, that's greed. Charlie's nostrils flared, then the color drained from his face as his expression hardened, his mentor facade settling back over him like armor. You both don't know what you're talking about. You should be grateful. A wave of disappointment crashed over Jordan. Was this the man he had put his faith in? Had all their moments together simply masked a darker truth? The disillusionment felt like a punch to the gut. He glanced at Jennifer. They shared a deep understanding, a mutual commitment igniting within them. "Charlie," he said, his voice steadying. "We can't let this happen." The challenge hung in the air like the sharp edge of a knife. They were at a precipice, and the choice was no longer passive. Jordan felt adrenaline pumping through his veins. The moment had shifted. Their fates intertwined with the decision to act, to expose a truth that felt impossibly heavy on their shoulders. Just as Charlie's lips parted as if to respond, the diner door swung open. A rush of cold winter air breezed through, carrying in a new atmosphere, a different kind of tension. "Is this where I find the troublemakers?" The voice sliced through the confusion, commanding and sharp. All heads turned to see a woman standing at the entrance, striking and poised, with a force that seemed to shift the very air. Jordan's heart raced. Who was this new player in the game? Who's ready for a real discussion about Pillar Corp? She stepped forward, eyes locking onto Jordan and Jennifer. The woman's confidence filled the diner, a flicker of hope igniting in the air. Jordan felt his heart race, but also a spark of curiosity. Who was she, and how did she know about them? He and Jennifer exchanged glances, feeling the weight of incoming changes. "I'm Ava," she introduced herself, a sharp smile breaking across her face. "And I think we need to have a serious conversation about your friend Charlie and the impact of his little project." Her tone was light, but there was an edge that suggested she meant every word. Concern flickered across Charlie's face, his previous composure cracking slightly. "Ava, you shouldn't be here," he said, his voice low, but the warning felt out of place in the midst of such tension. "Too late for that." Ava stepped closer, the buzz of chatter around them fading into a dull hum. "I've heard all about Pillar Corp's dealings, how they're bulldozing homes for profit, and it's time someone speaks up. The people deserve to know the truth." Jordan's pulse quickened, the mention of truth igniting an urgency within him. Here was an ally, someone who seemed ready to fight against the very machine that threatened their community. Jennifer leaned in. "Do you have proof? Is there something we can use?" Her voice was laced with hope and determination. Ava nodded, her expression turning serious. "I came across plans that show the extent of the development and the lives it will ruin. But we need to be careful. This kind of information can be dangerous." Charlie's jaw tightened, determination stealing his features as he stared at Ava. "You think you can just waltz in here and disrupt everything? You have no idea what you're talking about." "On the contrary, Charlie," Ava said, her tone steady. "I've watched families get torn apart by greedy decisions made in boardrooms by people like you. It stops today." The diner seemed to hold its breath, the unease swirling like a tornado. For the first time, Jordan saw fear in Charlie's eyes, a man who had always exuded control now cornered, raw, exposed. "Why now?" Jordan asked, his voice tight. "Why come here?" Ava took a deep breath, her gaze softening. "Because I once sat where you are, Jordan. I believed in the system, in people like Charlie. But I learned that sometimes you have to be the brave one, the one willing to stand up and say enough is enough. This isn't just a project, this is people's lives." She looked at each of them, her gaze filled with a strength that sent shivers down Jordan's spine. Charlie took a step back, sweat glistening on his forehead as he attempted to regain his composure. "You think this is easy? You think this is just a game? The stakes are much higher than you realize." "Higher for whom?" Jennifer shot back, defiance hardening her voice. "The families or your pocketbook?" Silence swallowed the diner as tension crackled. Their counterarguments echoed in Jordan's mind, stirring a ferocity that longed to break free. Ava's eyes sparkled with determination. "We're going to turn this around. You both have the passion, you just need the right plan. Let us expose the truth, together." The power of her words settled like sediment, sifting through Jordan's apprehension. A plan. A way forward. What had initially felt impossible now seemed tangible, real. Charlie's mouth twitched, his facade slipping. I won't let you destroy everything I've worked for. Jordan stood a little taller, every fiber of his being awakening. Or maybe you're the one who needs to rethink what you're working for. Ava smiled. It's time to choose a side, Charlie. What will it be? The question hung heavy in the air, a crucial decision that threatened to change everything. The stakes had never been higher, and for the first time, Jordan felt the power shift. Everyone here is looking for answers, he said, his voice steady. And they deserve a chance. As the eyes of the diner returned to him, where did that leave them? The battle was just beginning, and the real question loomed ahead: would they be strong enough to fight against the powerful forces at play? Before Charlie could respond, the sound of sirens wailed outside, cutting through the heavy tension. What new chaos awaited them just beyond the door? The sirens pierced the air, sending an electric charge through the diner. Jordan looked towards the windows, watching as red and blue lights flickered against the glass, casting anxious shadows on the walls. The chatter of patrons rose to a frenzy, panic surfacing amidst Ava's daring proclamation. What now? Jennifer whispered, her voice barely audible. Ava's eyes darted to Charlie, who was now pale, his bravado crumbling. We need a plan. You can't shut it. He snapped, taking a defensive stance. The room quieted momentarily, every eye focused on him. This is my project, my responsibility. And you can't just walk in here, stir things up, and get us all in trouble. Jordan felt a fire igniting in his chest. Was it fear? Anger? Or was it the undeniable urge to protect their future? Charlie, people are losing their homes. Can't you see that? Jordan, you don't understand. Families benefit from developments like this. Jobs are created. Charlie countered, but his voice trembled, the cracks in his armor painfully clear. Ava stepped forward, refusing to back down. But at what cost? You think you're helping, but you're complicit in tearing lives apart. The strength of a community lies in its people, not in dollars and cents. Someone has to think about the future. Charlie shot back, desperation bubbling to the surface. At that moment, the door of the diner burst open, slamming against the wall. Two uniformed officers stepped in, scanning the room like hawks. The energy shifted, the air felt thick with trepidation as they approached. Everyone stay calm. One of the officers raised a hand. We've received reports of potential civil disobedience in the area. Charlie's eyes widened, panic replacing his earlier confidence. There's been a misunderstanding, he stammered. Do you see that? Ava pointed towards Charlie, her voice low but fierce. This is your fault. Your project is the reason we're being scrutinized. Jordan's heart raced, feeling torn. Did they want to expose Charlie? Or were they desperate enough to save their community? The other officer noticed Jordan and Jennifer's tense expressions. Are you two involved in this? He asked, his gaze scrutinizing. No, we're just trying to help, Jennifer interjected, raising her hand slightly as a gesture of peace. Ava nodded, determination never wavering. We're not here to cause trouble. We're here to stand up for our community. This is about more than money, it's about lives. We deserve a voice. The officers made eye contact, exchanging unreadable glances. One of them stepped closer, addressing Jordan directly. Do you have information regarding any illegal activities happening with this project? Jordan hesitated, the weight of the moment pressing down like a heavy cloak. Every instinct screamed at him to reveal what he knew, but fear held him back. What would it cost them all? Ava met his eyes, a silent plea lingering in her gaze. If we don't act now, it will be too late. A deep breath filled Jordan's chest, heat pooling in his palms. We need to stand together. Everyone in this diner deserves better than what is happening. If we join forces, we can fight back. The officers leaned in slightly, the tension shifting as Jordan spoke. Yet, Charlie's face contorted in anger, his desperation igniting a clash of wills. "You will regret this." He spat, his body tense. "You have no idea what you're about to unleash." "Then let us find out together," Jordan shot back, his voice rising. With sighs from the crowd and whispers of agreement, a sense of solidarity began to grow. As the sirens continued to blare outside, Jordan felt that the time for secrets was over. But the air crackled with uncertainty. Would they find the courage to confront the truth as a united front? Just then, an unexpected crackle broke through the noise. The diner's radio blared a news report about Pillar Corp., the news anchor mentioning a whistleblower ready to share staggering information. Jordan's breath hitched. Were they about to find out that the fight in the diner was more than just local gossip? The moment of truth seemed to hover close, but would it push them further into the chaos or ignite a chain reaction of change? The tension in the diner was unbearable. Jordan felt his heart racing as the news report played on the radio, bringing the weight of the world crashing down right before him. The mention of a whistleblower lit up the air. It was time to act. "Did you hear that?" he said, standing taller, a surge of determination swelling within him. "We can't let fear control us. Change is possible, but we need to stand together. This is our chance to expose the truth." Ava nodded, stepping closer to the officers. "You have the power to make a difference too. Help us protect our community from this corporate greed." One officer glanced at the other, they both exchanged looks laden with uncertainty. "It's not our job to take sides in a corporate feud," one of them replied cautiously. "But if there's something illegal." "It's more than just illegal," Jordan interrupted, voice rising. "This is about families being uprooted, lives being shattered. If we don't act now, we risk losing everything." Jennifer, emboldened by Jordan's words, added, "We have to hold those in power accountable. If we stay silent, we become complicit." The crowd murmured in agreement, a swell of energy building among them. The weight of their shared experiences united them, and Jordan could feel hearts aligning, minds awakening. Watching Charlie's anxious demeanor flicker between anger and fear, Jordan seized the moment. "Charlie, this is your chance to do the right thing. Stop hiding behind your corporate shield. If you care about this community, prove it." A chip of doubt cracked Charlie's facade. He stepped back, the fight leaving him momentarily as the reality of his choices surged to the forefront. "You don't understand," he said, but his voice wavered. "This project, it's all I've ever worked for." "At what cost?" Jennifer challenged, her eyes fierce and unwavering. "It doesn't have to be this way. We can redirect this project to benefit everyone if you help us." Ava turned back to the officers, determination in her gaze. "We need your support to uncover the truth. The people on Charlie's board won't hesitate to protect their interests. If we're going to make a statement, we need the law behind us." The officers glanced around, the diner pulsating with stubborn hope. People were on edge, but there was something in the air, a collective determination to reclaim their future. "Okay," one officer finally said, his tone shifting. "Let us do this. We'll need you to give us all the information you have on Pillar Corp and their dealings." Jordan nodded, adrenaline pumping. "We'll gather everything. We'll meet wherever we need to. This isn't over, it's just the beginning." As he spoke, the air transformed. A new resolve surrounded them, igniting courage that blazed bright against the shadows of doubt. Bound by their determination, they began to work together as a unit, each voice building momentum. "Let us organize a meeting," Ava suggested, glancing around. "We need to rally everyone in the community, gather evidence, create a united front. We can't let fear silence us anymore." The crowd erupted with fervent nods, murmurs of agreement echoing off the diner walls. Jordan looked to Jennifer, her eyes glowing with the same fiery passion. This was it. The moment they waited for a chance to transform despair into action. As they took steps to plan, the officers listened intently, ready to help. The moment came alive with energy, a wave of motivation surging as they brainstormed strategies and gathered who they could protect. All of them were ready to stand together. They were a family now, whole communities tied together by experience, resilience, and a desire for justice. They would share their struggles, their truths, and they would raise their voices until everyone heard their cry. And as the siren subsided outside, paving way for hope, Jordan realized he wasn't just fighting for his community, he was fighting for every invisible struggle, every dream suppressed by systems built on greed. He turned toward Charlie. "There's still time. You can join us, stand with us. Change doesn't start at the top, it starts with those who dare to rebuild the foundation." Charlie hesitated, then looked at the hopeful faces surrounding him. Slowly, he nodded. "Okay. Let us clean up this mess together," he murmured, his voice breaking but filled with newfound determination. And with that, in a small diner in Chicago, a vast network of voices emerged, united for change. A story etched in resilience, rewriting futures, one courageous step at a time. Now, the world was watching. This was more than a fight for rights, it was a battle for the very soul of the community. As they planned their next meeting, a sense of urgency thrummed within Jordan. Change was within their grasp, but it would take unyielding bravery. The fight was just beginning, but they were ready. They would unleash a wave of solidarity, and together, they would change everything. And now, you must act. Don't wait. Subscribe immediately to our channel so you won't miss the exclusive updates on this transforming journey. Leave a like now, help us feed the algorithm and spread this important message. Comment below your feelings. What did you think of this ending? And share this video instantly with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. It's time to rally together, and only true fans understand the importance of supporting this channel through all these actions. Let us make our voices heard.